Hello, everyone, and welcome to another class. It's time for Principles of Planetary Magic. We're going to be talking about Venus today. The sphere of Venus is my favorite sphere of all the planetary spheres. I'm a Taurus. I am ruled by Taurus. By Venus. It is my home and the sphere in which I am most likely to be. I don't know. Happy, I guess, is the right way to put it. I'm not. It's hard to explain. Like, this is the sphere where everything it's manifests my inner desires and my inner proclivities the most. And it's sort of the same way for people who are interested in, who are Sagittarius, is they have the same experience in Jupiter as I have in Venus. So when they say that you're ruled by Venus as a Taurus, what that means is you're basically led around by your nose by love in every aspect of your life, completely, as long as you shall be a person. So just make sure that this is all right. We are recording. Good. All right. Cool. Forgive me. Okay. So in last week's class, we talked about the sun and what the sun does in the chain of manifestation. My takeaway from the sun, I hope that everybody took away, was that it's the sphere of light. It's the sphere of truth. It's the sphere of projection, where you're actually going to take the qualities of the idea that you've received in Saturn and Mars and Jupiter, and you're going to start actually projecting them out into the realm of this material world in a more and in ways that reflect what its true will is and what its true intent is and what that idea's essence is all about and what it's going to accomplish in the world. So that's what the sun is about. It's like the magnifying glass that shines forth the inner properties of that idea. Now, today we're going to turn our attentions to Venus, and Venus is back over onto the sphere, onto the pillar of mercy, right? So the pillar of mercy, you've got Jupiter above it, it's the greater benefic, and you've got Venus underneath of that, and that's the lesser benefic. Now, in the same way that Saturn was the big bad and Mars was the little bad, Jupiter is the greater benefic, the big good, and Venus is the lesser benefic, and she's like the little good, and she represents sort of astrologically, she is the transient joys and pleasures in your life, the transient blessings that come and go, and the feelings that feel good in the moment that may or may not be the things that you experience across the course of your lifetime, right? So it's not necessarily going to be like one love to last you a lifetime. It could be that kind of thing, but it's going to be all the friendships and all of the loves and all of the romances, fulfilled and not fulfilled, reciprocated and not reciprocated. All of your loves are going to be under Venus. All of your relationships, all of the things that are of the idea of attraction are underneath of this particular sphere. In Saturn, the word that basically summed up the essence of everything that was Saturnine was time. Everything was time related, and in Venus, you find that it's all attraction related. It's all about what attracts things together and what the responses to that initial attraction are. So she is the new love interest, and she's also all of her myths are about what happens when that particular love is either reciprocated, accepted, and honored, or not. Right. So she's also really well known for punishing people who scorn her love or scorn her deity or don't appreciate the love that they have in their lives. She's very much going to be the woman scorned in that effort. Like several of the other spheres, we have a very idealized idea of what Venus represents in magic, and magicians have this idea that you go to these spheres and we're going to receive um, uh, uh, the like you go to these spheres and you're gonna get the best of what it has to offer for you. Like you go to Jupiter and you're gonna get all the good blessings of Jupiter. You go to Venus and you're gonna get the best of love and all this stuff. But in real life, the magic of these spheres is not always going to look out for the best of what you think is what's best for you, right? It doesn't work on your behalf for what's good for you in every situation. Yeah, I'm okay. Is everything okay? Uh, sorry, I don't know. Chris, is everybody hearing me okay? Is there like a technical difficulty? Okay. All right, cool. Um, all right. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Sorry if I faded out there, it's because I was I got distracted when somebody had asked something or said something about the Raphael thing. So I get a little sidetracked. I had to recapture my thought. So yes, I'm okay. But yeah, so when we approach these spheres, we tend to think idealistically of what we're going to get out of it. Like they're going to look out for what's best for us in every situation, and they're going to like know what we really want, and they're going to be able to do all these wonderful things for us. But then when we get to the actually doing the magic, instead of getting the benefits from that sphere that are like going to take care of us and figure out what's really best for us, these forces just do what we tell them to, right? So it's less about what we need and what's best for us. It's not, they're not looking out for our best interests in every situation. They're really there to do what we ask them to do. And this is true in Venus just as like it is with all the other spheres. And if we don't keep that in mind, if we don't keep focused on the fact that we can very easily slip off into getting sidetracked and distracted along the way. If we don't keep in mind that they aren't going to do what we, uh, you end up getting what what you ask for, and you have to deal with the consequences of getting exactly what you asked for. Specifically in this sphere, a lot. If you don't ask for the love of your life, the perfect love, the ideal love for you, if you don't ask for that, you end up getting instead the person, and we'll talk about this in more detail later. You get the person that you describe, or the person that you ask for specifically by name. That person might come to you and you might end up with that person, but then you don't have anything that you want. And there's that monkey's paw aspect to this whole occult thing that we do that I wanted to sort of touch on a little bit there. And it's where you get everything you ask for and nothing that you really wanted. And it's because we ascribe a certain amount of wisdom and compassion and humanity to these intelligences and these spirits that we conjure that they don't necessarily have, right? So we can't really expect them to be able to read our minds and know what we really meant when we asked for the love of our life, unless we've like explained to them what that means. If we say, bring me the love of my life, a lover who is going to bring out my best qualities and fulfill me and bring me short-term and long-term happiness in ways that are healthy for my growth and encouraging to me. That's going to be one type of result that you get. That's going to be an experience that's completely different than bring me this girl over there who I saw at a I don't know, some event, a social event, and I thought she was cute and I want her now for myself. And I'm going to do all this magic for her for the rest of my life and until she becomes mine. That's a different kind of magic. And maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. I've never seen that kind of thing actually work. I've seen a lot of people do that kind of thing, but I've never seen them actually end up getting the person they want. They just end up getting more and more obsessed with that person. So if you're not careful with what you ask for, and actually I have seen some people get the person that they ask for and then end up with sort of like the charmed experience where the person is totally into them and they don't want that person anymore, and they just can't get rid of them. They're just always there and they feel responsible and obligated. So this is the realm of doing magic about your life and then figuring out later that maybe you didn't want that. So it's the realm of being careful of what you wish for sure, in matters of the heart. uh so yeah, in the chain of manifestation, the realm of Venus is where the aspects of the idea that we're developing and the idea that we're materializing that's coming down through the different spheres. This is where the qualities of this idea that make it attractive to other people get applied to it. So anything that makes an idea appealing to someone, or even the aspects of an idea that make it unappealing to people. I'm trying to avoid like all the political stuff, so I won't use anything that's going on in the news today. But like when big things happen, people they fall on either side of an event, right? And they're either pro it or against it, or they're for one side or they're against one side or whatever. Or you can be against both sides and seem like you're for one or whatever. It's confusing and it's complicated. But what it is about those ideas that appeal to those people, there's different things that are appealing to different people. There's something that's attractive, an aspect of what's going on that attracts some people to one side of it and to support one side of things, and other people to another side of it to support other side of things. And these attractors, these things that make an idea fascinating, an idea attractive to someone, these are all under the realm of Venus. Right. And what it is it triggers something in your mind. It triggers something in your heart. It triggers something in your memory. It triggers something in your desires. It's very much about the realm of desire. Eros is key to everything that you see with Venus. Like he's her child according to some myths, and other myths he has different origins from different myths, but in most of them he's the child of Aphrodite. But he's also, Eros is also the orphically he's one of the essences of the universe that come forth at the same time as Gaia out of chaos, right? He's one of the primordial deities. So Eros is like this driving force. But then in the material mundane world of gods, it's not really, it's more celestial, but it's still a lot closer to the material world, the world where there are deities. Eros manifests as this winged servant of love, right? So desire is this primordial essence in the Orphic tradition, but then in the theogony of Hesiod, it's Eros is more of a servant of love, right? So you can see that at different times in Greek culture, you have different views of this essence of desire, but desire itself is a primal force of all existence. It really is key to all of that. But at the same time, it's a servant of love in the material world, right? So desire is very much subservient to love. You desire the things, like you can fall in love and then come to desire things that you didn't realize you wanted in life. Or you can desire something and then fall in love with things that you weren't aware of, because in pursuit of your desires you learned more about things that you were looking for. So there's different ways to see different things going on. So yeah, let's see here. I had a thing I wanted to check on real quick. All right, and let's see. So yeah, so the way this manifests in our daily lives is this whole societal, like how well we are liked in society, like whether or not people are appreciating us, whether or not our jokes are hitting, whether or not our impact in the world is having our desired outcome. So it's like whether or not we're getting the likes that we've oh, Chris is not seeing everything. Uh-oh. Yeah, Chris, you might need to sign out and sign back in again. Let me make sure everything is set up right here. It looks like I've got everything set up right on my side here. If you're having any problems seeing anything, it is recording, so we should be able to catch up later. But let me know if you don't get it straightened out there, Chris. I'll see what I can do. If I need to do anything, I will do things. Anyway, so the popularity of any idea, the attractiveness of any idea when it manifests in the material world is how we're going to see the manifestation of our Venus forces and the forces of Aphrodite and love and all of those things at play in our lives. It's always going to be some function of this appeal, this the qualities of attractiveness. Let's see. Yeah, social media is a great way to kind of see this in play. I think you can see like in real time whether or not your ideas are being accepted or whether or not they're being distributed nowadays. With the algorithm being what it is, you kind of have to look at sort of the system at play and how the system is actually getting everything to go out. So okay, good to know. Glad that's working for you, Chris. But the thing is all the lessons that we learn in social media, that also applies to everything that we're going to learn about Venus, right? So like you can't compare yourself to other people. The things that make people fall in love, we like the idea of don't kink shame. That's very important in the realm of Venus, because everything that forms us, we know that our natal charts capture a snapshot of one aspect of what we're going to be like, what our proclivities are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, what our fate is. In a lot of ways, we can see what the forces are going to be like that manifest throughout our lives at different phases in our lives. We can get a general idea of what the forces are that are going to materialize just by looking at our natal chart. But then we have on top of our natal chart everything that happens to us after we're born, right? And it's through the actions and decisions of people that fate manifests in our daily lives. And specifically through the decisions that we make, most of the time, we're the ones that control most of the ways that fate materializes for us. So there's this potential of existence that you get, and then there's how you actually go about manifesting it. And then there's the idea of free will and how that all fits in there, but all of this stuff is part and parcel of that. But what you end up with is there's no one thing that is going to be attractive to everybody, and everybody isn't going to like the same stuff, and you're going to end up with your own opinions on what love is. Now, when we get to love magic and doing the magic of Venus, it's going to be very unique for you. What you love, what you've become, what you started out was one thing, and what you've done with it and what you've become as a result of what you've been through is something else entirely. And I will never understand that, and I will never be able to truly have the kind of compassion it would take for me to be able to tell you what to do with your life. So all I'm being able to do, like with any of this stuff ever, but specifically with the love stuff in particular, is I'm able to present the things that I've been through that have been very helpful for me, the things that I've learned about Venus magic for me at a high level that I think apply to everybody. But you're going to have to specifically develop your very own love language for expressing this, the things that are attractive to you, the things that you want to attract to your life, and the things that you want to not be attracted to you anymore. And this is something that's key to all of your emotional well-being, your promotions at work, your likability, your social status, whether or not you like being around other people and people like being around you. It impacts things like whether you feel like getting up in the morning. It has a lot to do with your depression. It can be very key. One of the key indicators of whether or not I'm depressed is whether or not I'm doing my Venus work, because if I'm feeling low, I'm not feeling like interacting with the things that make me happy, so it can be an indicator that I need to do something about my depression because it's starting to rear up its ugly head again, go for a walk or some shit. I don't know, something to cheer me up, something to get out of that pattern of behavior. But these are the kind of things that you can kind of learn to pick up on in your interactions with Venus, and it's going to be very much like your own fingerprint, your own your own love language for this kind of thing. But I just wanted to make sure that that was clear at the outset, that it's going to be something that's not anything that you can ever compare yourself to anybody else, right? So like, and this is something else. Like, we think that everybody has like a cookie cutter, and I say we, but often in society, it's easy for human beings to imprint on the idea of what we're supposed to have happen as part of our life. We're supposed to, like, if you look at the Catholic Church, they have the phases of your life that you have to go through are all spelled out. They have the I don't know, it's not the station, there's the Stations of the Cross, right? But then there's like the phases of your life. There's like catechism, and then holy orders, and if you go into the clergy, you take the holy orders. If you don't, then you take the sacrament. Oh, it's the sacraments, right? So it's a sacrament of marriage, right? The sacrament of baptism, the sacrament of whatever, your catechism, whatever. There's like at each phase of your life, you go through and you take this sacrament, right? And there's these phases, like everybody has to go through all these different phases in their progression, and you get this idea that your love life, or your sexuality, or your the ways that you materialize your ideas in this world are going to be they have to follow the same pattern as everybody else. And as we know today, like today, we're a lot more lax about sexuality than we have been as a society, I think, in a long time. Like, I think we're a lot more liberal when it comes to that kind of thing, but it's not anywhere near where I think it needs to be. But I mean, people still give a crap what other people do in their bedroom. And because of that, we have fears about expressing what we really want to desire in life. And also, some people desire things that are awful. You know, like, all of our desires are not things that we need to be expressing. Some people need to put filters on that crap and not do that, you know, because human beings desire base crap. It's not like we have some holy font of pure desire that's always going to want good things coming out of our source of being. You know, we just have this hole that's looking for experiences, and it's just trying to suck in experiences all the time. And it's just like making suggestions. Why don't we do this? How about that? How about this? How about that? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And it's just, every time it sees something and it wants something, it has an instant reaction, and that's all it's about. And that's all it wants to do. Right. And that little part of yourself that's doing that is, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted there. So like, you get into this thing where you're trying to, I'm sorry. So that part of yourself that desires things and wants things, it's not necessarily always going to want something that's good or positive or beneficial for anything. It doesn't really care. It really just wants to have an experience. And that's what desire is it's seeking an experience. You know, there's this Crowley quote about how frater perderabo is but an eye, and what eye none knoweth. And that points to this mystery about how human beings are these individual eyeballs, right? We're just kind of going around, floating through time and space, having these experiences, looking at things, observing things, and interacting with things, and taking these experiences back and processing them on some spiritual level. You know, that's sort of like this theory of what we're all doing. And in a lot of ways, that makes sense, because we don't have a lot of proof that there were anything more than that. That eyeball that's just going around absorbing information and experiencing things, that mote of consciousness, that absorbing awareness, that observer, if you will, that thing is just looking for something to do. Whether what we do in response to its suggestions is up to us. That's what determines who we are as people. You know, getting these inappropriate desires, like, people get inappropriate desires, and whether they act on them or not is what makes them a good or a bad person. Okay. And hopefully you don't get a ton of terrible desires. If you've lived a decent life, hopefully that doesn't happen to you. And if you've been blessed enough not to have a bunch of crappy stuff pumped into your brain throughout your life, you probably won't have a lot of bad impulses. But we are garbage in, garbage out machines, and people who are experiencing a bunch of crap their whole lives tend to pump out a lot of crap. And so it is, you can't really control necessarily what your brain is suggesting that you do, but you always have a choice about whether you're going to actually act on it or not. So your desires, your eros, that primal aspect of existence that emerges out of chaos, that erotic desire to create and manifest and materialize things, that's a precursor to what Venus does. Venus is it's the response to that desire, and that moment that encapsulates that desire. It's the fulfillment of that desire that you find in Venus, right? It's that desire to create and experience something that is fulfilled in the climactic moment of orgasm, for example. Like that's the one thing that we can always go to in Venus is sex. Sex is always going to be a great analogy for anything that has to do with Venus. So orgasm, in that moment of orgasm, when you're expressing that joyful culmination of everything that led up to that moment, that desire that's been building up is finally fulfilled. That's what that release is all about. And that's what Venus is about, is the fulfillment of that desire. It's that moment of transformation between wanting a thing and having had it, and that very brief second in between those two states, right? That's where Venus rules. and that pursuit of it is under Venus, and that the I guess they call it post-nut clarity these days, but the post-orgasmic bliss, where you have that clarity moment where you can look back on things and sort of see what's going on, and have a better understanding of your life in general and what you want to do with everything in that moment. So that's sort of what the essence of Venus is. On the negative side of things, in the same way that attraction is the essence of things, the negative side of this is the dispersive aspects that you find of anything that is pleasant when you go in if you go to an extreme in the opposite direction. So if you go extremely opposite of a thing that is very attractive and pleasant, like alcohol, for example, Dionysus is very much a part of Venus. Getting your drink on is okay. You can have a couple of drinks, you can relax, you can have a better time as a lover, you can have a better time in a social situation, you can have a better time romantically with people because you're not so afraid of things, and you've got a little bit of liquid courage going for you, and alcohol can help the Venus aspects of life be a little bit better. But alcoholics and alcoholism is going to be the opposite of that. So where a little bit of alcohol can make you more attractive and attract more positive experiences to you, too much alcohol, alcoholism, where you get to a point where you're destroying your life on a regular basis because you're pursuing this pleasure, that becomes a dispersive act, right? So if you look at the Klepoth of the sphere of Netzach on the tree of life corresponds to the sphere of Venus, and Netzach has the Klepoth. I don't remember what it's called, but the entities that inhabit the Klepoth of Netzach are the ravens of dispersion, right? And that's the essence of this. The negative manifestation of Venus is the dispersal aspect of what happens when you overly pursue something that is entirely like, it might be pleasurable in small amounts, but in large amounts, drug overdose is always the greatest form of negative Venus that you can think of. Debauchery in any form, whether it's alcohol or cocaine or fentanyl or whatever, it's when you get to the point where you're pursuing pleasure to the detriment of everything else in your life. That's the flip side of this particular sphere. Let's see. It's it's also the realm of grift, of one-sided pleasures that bring harm and decay. So anything that is focusing you on unreciprocated love, right? So anything that takes advantage of a situation where one party knows more than the other party, that is a venereal situation, because it appeals to the emotions of someone and the desires of someone, and the desire for knowledge and information is a strong desire. So the way that the confidence artists take advantage of people is by getting their confidence. Is they're con artists, so, they get your confidence, they get you to like them, they get you to be attracted to their ideas, and they get you to think of them as attractive people, because they want you to be confident in their confidence to deliver what it is that they're offering you, whether they can or not. Usually they can't. That's also one of the aspects of the downside of Venus, is because Venus makes you want the things that are good about people, and want those things to be true. And that's great, but it doesn't necessarily mean that trait is there. If you remember back in the sun, we talked about how the sun magnifies a person. It's an ennobling agent. So like when you do a transformation and ritual of yourself in the sphere of the sun, you're going to actually grow those noble qualities of yourself, because it's going to be revealed more in yourself, and it's going to be expressed more in the world around you. Venus isn't going to add or reveal anything to you. It's going to make you feel like those things are there. It's going to make you be attracted to things. You're going to want to see those things. You're going to see the things that you desire in a situation. If you're not coupling that with the truth of the sun, you're going to find yourself falling in love with lies and delusions. The relative love that you find through solar work is always going to be a positive experience, in my opinion, and the love that you find through lunar experience is almost always going to be a negative experience, because in a lunar experience you're projecting onto a person or a situation what you want to see, and in the solar experience you're projecting your love into a situation based on the truth and what you're actually experiencing. So you're more likely, I think, to have something for it to grow around. But that's not always what people want. I mean, there's times that people just want something transient and brief, and getting all wrapped up in the truth and the reality of another person is not really what either party is interested in doing. They just are looking for something in the moment, and that's also just fine. The idea that we need to judge what other people do with the realm of Venus is something that I am adamantly opposed to. It's none of our business how other people deal with their love and their lack thereof, in my opinion. We're all trying to have a good time, and most of our concerns about other people's good times are none of our business. As long as nobody's getting hurt, and that's pretty easy to tell. It's a pretty low bar, is don't hurt people. I think it's pretty cool that people can just do whatever they want. So let's see. So this is the realm of conception, of procreation, where sexual congress leads to infant children. So this is where I wanted to talk about how you actually, when you have sex, sexual reproduction, this is all sexual. This isn't just sexual reproduction. This is the sphere of all kinds of reproduction. This is the sphere of like asexual reproduction as well. Anything that is generative, that creates from nothingness, right? So in the Seven Spheres book, I talked about how Venus is like the sphere of productivity and production. It's where the pieces and parts, the nutrients are put together and conformed into their new structure, to where they are able to give life and carry that spark of life forward into the new form that's been made out of the pieces and the parts. So in that way, that carries on the manifestation of that idea over generations. That is also an aspect of Venus. Yes. So the part of Venus that it makes things generative is also what makes it degenerative, right? So that the ravens of dispersion disperse things through the corruption of desire, right? So overly focusing on your desires can lead to that corruption. And then when you are So the soil itself like takes a seed into it and creates life, and that life grows out of the nutrients that are in the soil. But the nutrients in the soil come from the decay and the dispersion of the life that had come before, right? So like in the John Corn myth of the god that dies and is reborn as seed and plant, and dies and is reborn as seed and plant, right? So that whole thing requires the death and the decay of that life into those nutrients. And that's the green phase of the work. It's like when you're going through the phase of the black phase of the work, where the black the negative stuff comes to the surface. That decay, that rot, is part of Venus too, because that rot becomes the fertility of the soil, the fecundity of the earth arises from that decay. So even that sweetness of decay is part of the sweetness of Venus and the venereal realm. Yes. So sex is always going to be, like I said, the key encapsulator of this sphere and everything that it represents. But it's in the same way that sex is great, it's also one of the most terrible parts of our human existence when it's taken instead of given, when the whole power dynamics, the men versus women in society, the LGBTQ expressions of sexuality, and whether or not that's acceptable and in cultures, and whether or not society, how we're going to respond as a group of human beings to what other people are doing with their genitals. That's something that is a huge part of our life, and it's as detrimental and shaming and controlling and manipulative to us as it is freeing, liberating, and expressive of our true desires and our true self, right? So this is a realm that is both manipulative and controlled and controlling, but also the realm of freedom and expression and creation and creativity. And these are the conflicting forces that we have to balance as magicians, right? And these are the forces that we have to understand that we're dealing with when we're working with the forces of Venus in our daily lives as magicians. We're not just working with just love and just sex and just fun and pleasure and getting the favor of our bosses. All these things are under Venus, right? But it's also all of the angst and the frustration, the sexual frustration, the inability to create that we run into in our day-to-day lives. Like 90% of road rage, I think, would be solved if everybody had an opportunity to have an orgasm before they drove. I don't think people would be very angry if they had just, had an orgasm that morning before they did left. And this is just one of those things, that we have to deal with as a society, is that everybody isn't getting their biological frustrations relieved on a regular basis, and we have to deal with that stress societally, and it kind of sucks, but that's part of what Venus is part of what we have to deal with from this realm, and the deeper we get into Venus stuff, the more you see how varied it is in our culture, but how intrinsic it is to every piece of it. Like if I was thinking I wanted to do a class just on relationship recovery, just on getting over a bad relationship, and every relationship that ends is the worst relationship ever, because it's especially right after it ended, and I was like, dude, people really need to do this. And then I was thinking, it's not just that. People need to have like a whole course where they can just examine where their ideas of love came from. Like where did we what's the word imprint our ideas of what the perfect partner looks like from? Was it something we saw on TV? Was it our parents? Was it something that we just read about in a book somewhere? Where did we get the idea of what we really want? A lot of it has to do less with who we are and what we saw, personally, and more of what we wish we'd seen instead of what we actually saw, because people are rarely giving us the kind of role models that we need when it comes to love to actually be healthy human beings, in my opinion. True love. So Venus is very much about romantic love, right? The true love of your heart. If you look at the Greek myths, these myths were written like 500 BC is like the time of the Hesiod. I think 800 BC is like where these ideas were coming around. So like our earliest history of these ideas are talking about these people who fell in love with each other and were betrayed, and the first human interaction that we have a record of in Greek history was the fall of Troy, the war of Troy, and that was all because Aphrodite gave Paris the most beautiful woman, Helen of Troy, as the reward for picking him to receive the apple that Eros threw. Right? So like love and sex and desire and true love is the core element of our oldest stories that we have from the Greek myths. So like the idea of true love and romantic love, I remember reading that it was just that romantic love was just this idea that was created in medieval times in the English and French courts by these writers who had nothing better to do than entertain the nobility of French nobility, and they made up all these romance novels, and this whole art form was created that was appealing to the emotions of young women, but had nothing to do with reality. And as that became more popular, the idea of romance became something that was all of a sudden something that human beings had, that previous to that nobody really expected a man to be romantic or a woman to be romantically in love with you. It was not as important, right? That was the idea. It turns out that's just this misogynist complete hokey fake crap history that has nothing to do with reality. Romance is part of our lives. It goes back to the Hesiod talks about the love of Paris for Helen and Helen for Paris, right? It wasn't that they really fell in love. Like the things that they did that destroyed these two nations, that wasn't because of anything, but they really wanted to be together. Love is something that Aphrodite is very much a part of, and it drives us as human beings. It's something that can be very pure and very noble, and it can be very base, and it can be very ignorant. And I have loved from the highest places, and I have loved from the lowest places. Like I wanted someone just because I didn't want the person they were with to want to be happy. I didn't even want them for myself. I was on them, I pursued them romantically, even though I had no desire for them. I was that kind of a jerk. And that was just, I didn't realize it at the time. I thought I didn't, pretty ignorant, but I mean, at the same time, I've I've gone to the sphere of the sun, and I've asked for every part of me to be consumed, and destroyed, that created any echo that allowed a bad relationship to manifest for me. After I went through a bad relationship, after I needed to heal from that, I've gone through that process too, because love is so important. It's so intrinsic to everything, and if you have a good, solid, clean heart where that's concerned, you're able to manifest that around you in the ways that you really that you really want to experience in your life. Yeah, so let's see. I think what else I go on to in this slide, I talked about how she's the lesser benefic. So a lot of the true love things that she rules over, it's true that she rules over that, and that is a very important part of life. But she's also the one that rules over your good times along the way. Your good times with friends, your good times at the bowling alleys, your good times just hanging out at the bar and having good conversations. I recently, a couple months ago, did a ritual to have new friends because I wasn't happy with. A few of my friends were all busy when I wanted to do something, and I got mad about it. So I wanted better friends. So I did a ritual where I could have more friends, and I ended up making friends with this guy and his wife. We ended up having dinner the other day. It was great, and it's like it's like you end up it's really weird how it works, you know, that like you end up finding somebody who is in harmony with the things that you are interested in, who can respond to things in ways that are mutually beneficial. So it rules over every aspect of your life. It's not just romance and love and lust and sex and that kind of thing. Venus rules over friendships, opportunities, promotions at work, all the good times that you have that are fun. Like when you get a 15% raise, or and you were expecting a 14% raise, you know, where you get the little pleasures in life that are a little bit better than you thought they would be. You know, the bratwursts are even better on the boat than they were on the beach. You know, it's the little things that make it just a little bit better. Those are all aspects of Venus. In the same way, if you're having like a bunch of negative things that are just a little bit bad, that's also when you're constantly disappointed, when you're constantly running into issues that just aren't quite good enough, and you're just a little bit sad about things all the time. That's also indications that your Venus is out of whack, that you need to get things cleansed out, or you're going through times where you're cleansing things out as well. So let's see. How did I do the ritual for new friends? Oh, that was I on Friday I conjured Haniel. I said I need better friends. I was like, please help me. And I lit a candle in front of my statue to Venus, and I said, receive this offering of fire and of smoke. I lit some incense, and I said, please bring me better friends. And I got better friends. And it was very easy, and it's very simple. And I am the laziest magician, and that's what most of my rituals look like. Receive this offering of fire and of smoke, and then you, oh spirit of the planet, bring me my planet related request. You know, it's ridiculous how lazy I am with all this stuff. Let's see. So Chris asked, in a conversation in the music studio, there's one singer saying that she used the memory of her previous lover for sexual stimulation. One thought was, okay. So another person thought it could be a form of astral rape, and that the energy could affect the previous partner. Okay, well, that sounds very interesting. I think where all that's concerned, a lot of it has to do with imagination when it comes to astral stuff. So the question is could a person astrally rape a previous partner by thinking about a memory of having sex with them? And I think the short answer is no. You can't rape someone unless you're raping someone. You can't think about them and do astral rape of them. You know, it's not rape unless it's rape. Let's be very clear about that. We're not going to insult people who are actually raped by saying that somebody who thought they were raped is having the same experience as someone who is actually raped. You're not. If you just think you were, it's not the same thing, and it's an insult to people who actually have had that experience. So we're not going to do that. If somebody was astrally raped, I mean, they can astrally get their astral revenge on this astral rapist in an astral way. You know, by all means, do that. The astral realm is where astral things go to deal with astral things. It's a lot of fun, but it's not real. Okay, it's not real unless there's real things that are happening that look just like what's going on in the astral. And you have to see the real things for the astral things to be true and valid, and to get more than just a passing glance of attention. And the thing about astral things that is true is that real iron and real steel eliminates most of 90% of what you run into in the astral realm. So Yeah, so that's basically but no, I don't think that thinking about having sex with somebody is having any impact on them energetically and going forward. There, I could be wrong. You could be some kind of quantum entanglement going on, some magical occult thing that's symbolically similar to that. Um, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not happening, but I don't think that it's something that we can functionally take into our account as something we have to be responsible for dealing with. For sure, for sure. Uh, it was about the energy of the memory being transmitted. I don't think that the energy of the memory is transmitted beyond the person that's having the memory themselves. So I think that any energy that is transmitted by remembering a sexual act is entirely generated by that person within the confines of their own cellular whatever. And whatever they do with that is the same as if they were just imagining it for themselves. So but I don't think it's being transmitted unless they're thinking really hard about someone, and it's not going to be any different than thinking really hard about somebody is anyway. So all right, so let's see. Yeah, the romantic love that fulfills your needs emotionally. The thing about Venus is that it really does impact every aspect of what can fulfill you when it comes to your desires in life. I think embracing Eros as your guide and your guardian spirit, the spirit that can keep you focused on attaining your true will and your true reason for being here in life, if you believe in that kind of thing. I think that your desires are always going to be the way to know what your actual will is all about. But like I said, you gotta keep an eye on it. That desire, that eros part of yourself, just it can just want things all the time. It's just hungry. It doesn't really care for what's healthy versus what's not healthy. But in general, you can kind of get a sense for what you want in life because your personality is going to be drawn to certain things. You're going to have things that you're really good at that make you happy in life. And these kind of things, um, you could tell right from wrong and good from evil, but the kind of things that are really fulfilling to you are actually going to be reflected through your Venus placement and your charts and the things that really make you happy that you get to know more about yourself as you go along in life. It's definitely worth doing the work in this realm to clean yourself out and to get all of that initiatory garbage dealt with so that you can have the best possible relationships and be the best kind of lover and find the best method of attaining your emotional partnership that is right for you as a person in life, right? All that stuff is under the realm of Venus. And I think that as a Taurus, I think everybody would be happiest if they found their true love. That's crap, by the way. I'm full of shit when it comes to that. The reality is your love life is your love life, and what works for you is going to be your own thing. And whatever that is, Venus knows, and Venus can help you find that. But you have to do the work to figure that out for yourself. And Venus is where that's done. And you will be more fulfilled and more happy emotionally and in your relationships after you do this work than you are without doing that work, for sure. So, okay. Venusberg. I want to talk about Venusberg. If you are a fan of Aleister Crowley, he was a fan of Tannhauser by Wagner. Wagner's Tannhauser was the story of Tannhauser's descent to Venusberg. And basically, Tannhauser was a knight, and he went to it's sort of like the story of I don't not Rumpelstiltskin. The guy that fell asleep in a toad rings. Anyway, it's a story of somebody who falls asleep in the human world and gets transported into a spiritual world where they stay for 20 years and then they come back to the human world as if nothing had happened, right? And Tannhauser went to Venusberg, the world that was ruled by Venus, and lived as the lover of Venus herself for 20 years, and then went through all these spiritual metamorphoses over there. Rip Van Winkle, yes. So like Rip Van Winkle, like went to the realm of the fairies and came back to this world after 20 years. In the same way, Tannhauser goes to Venusberg, and Venusberg is basically, he went on his Netzach initiation, and he went through the sphere of Netzach on his way to Tiferet and attained Kether's knowledge and attainment through his love and lust. So in Crowley's view of his understanding of Tantra at the time, the idea of sex magic as this method of attaining enlightenment, and this his idea of what the Hindus thought a shortcut to enlightenment represented, based on his misunderstandings of Vajrayana yoga. Anyway, once you figure out what he was trying to do with it, it makes perfect sense why Venusberg is a big deal. So anyway, I was in the AA, and I was into all of the stuff that Crowley makes you read when you're in the AA. And part of what I had to read was Tannhauser, and I did a lot of Venusberg initiations around the idea of embracing Venus, the goddess, and the deity, Aphrodite herself, the entity, as well as the planetary force, as an initiatory agent in my life, right? So I quote unquote entered Venusberg metaphorically after I left my previous relationship and before I got together with my current partner. And I went through a period of transformation that was great. It was awesome. I ravaged through my mind. I went through my mental illnesses and my mental disorders. I examined every part of my heart that allowed me to fall in love with the wrong person. I took everything to the sun, and I asked for it to be healed, and for all the noble qualities to be revealed. And everything that I did wrong, I repented of, and everything that I did right, I made sure I wasn't afraid to do the right things again because it didn't work out the first time. I did all this stuff there. And what I learned was actually was about everything, right? So when I talk about Zeus as the head, the middle, and the all in all, it's a metaphor for this experience that we have as human beings with this infinite unseen world that interacts as if spirits are real, as if when we have their names and seals, they actually come and respond to us, as if all these things that we learn about in our occult systems are true. The world works that way, as if it's really real. But when you approach it as if it's all Zeus, and you do the Zeus hymns from the Orphic tradition, and you follow this path of belief and understanding and interpretation, you have an experience with this all thing as this lightning bolt experience, this energy, this electric thing. And I'm trying to recreate it so everybody can experience it. It's great. Once I figure out how to get everybody to feel it, I'm gonna set it up so you can go on a retreat and enjoy it. But I had a similar thing happen to me with Venus, right? When I was doing this Venusberg thing. And when you devote yourself to a planetary power like that, and you actually do a weekly devotion to her every Friday morning, where all you do is you say the hymn, and you conjure Anal, and you offer her a shot glass full of wine and a stick of incense and a tea light candle, and you ask her to bless your love and to heal your heart. And that's all you do. And you do that every week for 6 weeks. She changes you. On the 7th week, there's a breakthrough moment, and you're having all these experiences along the way of getting favor from people, of working out relationship problems that you didn't know that you had along the way. Empowerment, being able to manipulate your situations in your favor, not in a bad way, like not in a way that's to the detriment of other people, but in ways that recognize the strengths that you can help with, and the needs that you can fill, the things that you can create to make better for people. their experiences. Those things come into being for you as you go through this transformation, and you're able to so like when I did the Gents for Jupiter initiations, right? When I was doing that, I became a blessing for other people, right? People would come to me and they'd hang out with me and they would have good luck in other aspects of their lives in the same way that I was having good luck from Jupiter, from hanging out with Jupiter. So like it rubbed off on them through me. In the same way with Venus, people found people that they fell in love with when I was working with Venus all around me. Like this one guy is still in a relationship that he started when he was when so I was working through one of my problems and I was telling him everything that I was going through and I was doing magic about it. And he was actually wrapped up in helping me get healed from it. And as I was healed, he was also healed, and he ended up falling in love with someone who is now his partner. And they are still in a relationship, and it is what it is. I think that's cool, but this way that when you start doing this magic with when you go into Venusberg and you start working through your own problems, it impacts the people around you throughout your whole life. And it reveals the intricate binding force that we have. One of the things that the Corpus Hermeticum says, and I think it's in Liber Al, I think Crowley wrote it in Liber Al, it's a big part of Thelema though, is that we are separated for the chance of union, for the chance of we're separated for the chance of love. We're divided for the chance of union, right? So it's only when the all thing was one thing and had never individuated into you and me and love and hate and life and death and the unmanifest versus the manifest, when we were all just light, when it was all just Ein Sof Or, when it was all just the pleroma, there was no self, there was no love, there was no sex, there was no pleasure, there was no pain, there was nothing. It was for the sake of love that we divided, right? All this pain that we suffer was for the sake, the chance of union, the chance of sex, the chance of that good feeling. We aren't guaranteed it. We weren't guaranteed to have that when we broke ourselves apart from ourselves and stopped being one thing. When we individuated, we did it with the faith that we would actually be able to have pleasure. It was for the hope, the chance of union, right? So that's what this is. That's what Venusberg is all about, is about finding a place where you are able to fulfill that chance of union. The realm of this sphere very much, or the energy of this sphere is very much the force of manifestation. It's what wraps the ideas in something warm, right? So if you think of the phallus as the thrusting carrier of the generative force of the idea, the thrusting idea moving into something in a phallic way, that yoni that absorbs it, the venereal receptor that receives that phallus, the vaginal receptive force takes it and gives it a womb and gives it something to grow into. That's what this is about, is that transfer of the generative force into a living being, an entity that comes out of that. And that's the secret of Venus magic in a nutshell. It is all about sex, right? Or creating, even in an asexual thing, it is creating a moment where an idea is given life, and it's the informing of that idea. It's where that idea is given a shape. So every sexual, or every magical child is born from a sexual act. So every time you have sex, you're having a spiritual child, is a thing that can be very useful if you get into sex magic. But basically, whatever you think about when you have an orgasm is imprinted on this energy that you've accumulated in that moment, and it goes on and has a life of its own. And the more energy you put into programming that focused energy of the release of that orgasm, the the more that child is going to grow into the magical idea that you've created. And this is the big secret of things like the OTO's formation of the sexual current around the solar phallic sex cult was that the sex magic is what you think about when you have sex is going to manifest as an idea in the material world. That's the male female aspect of that sexual congress thing. The theory is that the male sexual congress thing of the 11th degree secret of the OTO, it doesn't create just a magical child, it creates a magical current, right? So in the same way that the a sexual right between a man and a woman can create a sexual child that represents their wealth and health and well-being that they then release into the world to manifest and grow. That's one way of looking at it. But like a male version of that sex right would be something that creates like the current of Thelema, which goes on to create many children and many adults who go on to have children that are all inspired by this current. So like it's, I don't know, that's just the theory, but whatever. I don't believe that that is quite how it works. But the truth is that every time that there is a sexual release, it seems like there is something that goes out into the universe that goes about manifesting whatever you're thinking about in that time. And the more you think about, the more clearly you think about things when you're having an orgasm, the more things manifest according to those desires. And that's the secret of chaos magic and the OTO and some Christian things and a lot of anything that has to do with ecstatic mysteries. It's all about getting excited and thinking clearly about something at the same time. So if you're looking for materialization things, Venus is the sphere to go to make things manifest, but you have to be very emotional. It's where the highly charged emotions become the materializing forces. All right, so qualities of the planet, love. It's all about love and emotional love. All of those positive emotions and their opposites, everything that is good about love is also the negative side of love. For all the passionate desires for the one person that you want to live the rest of your life with, there's the person who's lusting and desirous of the person who wants nothing to do with them, right? So that passionate unrequited love is just as powerful as that passionate requited love is, right? So either way, it's the same thing. Love is love, whether it's fulfilled or not. They're both under the power of Venus. So if procreation is another aspect of this planet, anything that has to do with passing on of life and embodying things, that transformation of the spark of lust into the spark of life. It's the sphere of attraction. Everything that is attractive to you comes to here. It's the sphere of peace after madness. When we get to the hymn of the planet, we'll talk a little bit about how she is the defeater of monstrosities through chains of madness, actually. So it's through madness that love binds the monsters in our lives. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So she's the bringer of peace after madness. The fulfillment of desire. It's not just what you want, it's getting what you want. So that's a thing, is Venus where you get what you want. If you're not getting what you want in Venus, it always indicates that there's something wrong with what you're asking for. Venus is the realm of fulfilled desires. So that's one of the key things I think that people need to realize about Venus is when you ask for something from Venus, you're almost always going to get it. And if you're not getting it, you are getting what you really want. You're getting something that you desire instead. So it usually indicates that you're asking for the wrong thing, or what you're asking for is not what you really desire. There's some kind of disharmony at work there. So ravens of dispersion are the opposite. So yeah, in the same way that attraction is the the positive traits of Venus. You can think about all the things that attract people together. The negative traits are the things that make people not want to be around each other. So anything that is too selfish or self-oriented, pleasure that is at the expense of others is always going to be something that drives other people away. The way to keep the pleasures of Venus positive and healthy are to share the pleasures of Venus, right? It's something, camaraderie is how the joys of the sphere are manifested. When you try to just keep it to yourself, it almost always goes poorly. Let's see. Decay is what makes the flowers grow. Yeah, so decay really is what makes the flowers grow. When we look at the traits and qualities of the planet, flowers are key to Venus. Flowers are the part of the plants that represent this force. It's the pretty parts, the parts that make us want to pick them and spread their seeds all over the planet. It's the attractive flowery parts, but the flower comes from the decay in the soil, right? It has to be the fecundity of the soil comes from the decay of the things that were alive and that were lusted after and desired previously. So we can't lose sight of the short-term aspect of everything that waxes and wanes here in the material world. Also, she is the morning star. Venus is the planet that is Lucifer, that morning star that moves before the sun, or in relation to the moon, or wherever she happens to be at whatever time of the year that she happens to be at. I wanted to say that she was the morning star that came before the dawn, but she's not. That's actually a different goddess, and she's not always going to be there at the dawn. But the thing about her as the light bringer, because Venus does have an aspect where she is phosphoros. She is the light that is Lucifer. She is Lucifer is one of her names. She is the light that comes before the dawn, and it's the light that love is enlightening, right? There is an enlightenment that comes from the attraction that you feel for things, and that enlightenment is what you get when you look at why you desire things, when you look at how your desires reflect your purpose, when you understand that your driving wishes, ambitions, goals are reflective of the idea that you are manifesting. When you understand that your desires are a positive reflection of your true will, that's when you start to actually be able to tap into that, and that's what that enlightenment of Venus is all about. That's why she is that Lucifer aspect of things. That's why pleasure and hedonism are enlightening forces, and what her role is with all of that is tapping into that attraction so that you can tap into your true will and what it is that you're here to do. Let's see. She's also the goddess of poetry, so all things that are poetic. I wanted to make sure I remembered that. That's what that picture there is for. But yeah, just to summarize what it is she's the fulfillment of your desires. She's where you go to create your ideas and actually make them manifest, and also the realm of all the good feelings and the positive feelings that you need to actually start to feel good. So that's basically the theory of Venus and her qualities and her primary things that we work with in magic. When we go to actually use this in the material world, when you go to actually start using this to change your life for the better and manipulate things around you, there really aren't that many ways to do it, right? So, I mean, basically, it's romantic love. You either are in a relationship that you like, or you're in a relationship that you want to be better, or you're in a relationship that you're not in a relationship that you like, or whatever. You're either in a good relationship or a bad relationship, or you're alone and you're either happy or you're not, right? So love is what this is what you use it for. So Venus is where you go when you're not happy with your relationship. It's also where you go to strengthen your relationship if you need to do that. So your immediate relationship, but also your further away relationships. It starts with your partner, your personal partner. Um, Prior to that, it's not even about anybody else. We will probably talk about it more at another point in the presentation, but um, loving yourself is key, I think, to being in a relationship with other people. If you don't love yourself, the things that you don't love about yourself are going to be the same things that other people don't love about you as well, right? And if you don't love things about yourself, you're going to think the worst about yourself where that's concerned, and it might not even be true, right? So it's very important to have a very clear understanding of who you are and what value you have in real life. And if you don't have that appreciation for yourself, if you don't really know how cool you are, it's hard for you to be respectful of other people's appreciation of you, right? And if you don't respect the persons that you're with, if you think that they're a moron because they love you, you know, why would they want to be with someone who thinks they're a moron? You know, so you gotta get that kind of straightened in your head, just so you're a decent person to be around. In my opinion, other people don't really care so much. I know at least one person who he swears up and down that you don't have to love yourself to love someone else, and I'm like, no, you don't, because he loves other people, but he can't stand himself. And I'm like, I get that, you know, but the people that love you, basically, they have to put up with you, you know. And we all have this agreement that we're gonna put up with you the way you are, because that's just how you are, and you're worth it because we think you're great. But you know, you could love yourself and you choose not to. He's like, yeah, I guess that's true. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I guess that's how I am. I'm like, yeah, I guess so, but it's how we expect you to be. And that's the thing is like the thing that was cool about Eeyore and the gang of friends around Winnie the Pooh was that all of those characters, they all knew that Eeyore was depressed, and he didn't have to be happy all the time. They hung out with him anyway, and they just were like, okay, yeah, that's sad. Let's go, you know. And they just went along with it, and they got him to do things anyway. And that was what was cool about it, right? And I saw a meme that said that, so it has to be true. And that's what we do with this guy that I'm talking about. He's a depressed guy, and we know that, and we take care of him. But yeah, so you don't have to love yourself to love other people. I know he loves other people. I know he's very, very deep and emotional. So saying you have to love other people, you have to love yourself to love other people is false. But uh, as you work with Venus, you do learn to appreciate yourself, and that is very helpful when it comes to being in relationships with other people. So when you start to do that, you'll definitely start to get that moving in your life. Anyway, so getting the love of self, the love of your personal partners, but then also moving out layers of separation, the love and attraction of your peers and your bosses and your careers, and within your segment of society, you become more well known and better appreciated as a member of that part of reality. So these are the kind of ways that we can actually use these forces. We can also use it for getting rid of unwanted attractions. So like if you're in a situation where somebody wants you but you don't want them, you can actually use Venus to make them either fall in love with someone else or just stop loving you, which can be dangerous too, because then they just get mad. You can't really win with people. It sucks. Basically, what we end up doing with Venus magic, not necessarily in a bad way. You can do this in positive ways, but it's emotional manipulation for the fulfillment of your desires. You make people feel happy when they're around you, so that they associate you with happiness, or you make people feel sad so that they want to have something that you want. You know, these are basically what you're doing when you do love magic, one way or another. You're creating feelings of goodness around you and sadness away from you. You're making people attractive to you. It's really, really key for getting anything to happen in your life. Whenever we're in a moment of stagnation, a good Venus rite will kick things in the butt, and it will start to manipulate things in our favor again. It's very important. Um, when we actually do the things that with the talismans, for example, that you can create using the planet of Venus, you'll find that they're all for getting love, for getting favor. The most important talisman I think that we can make is the one for Venus, where you get the favor of other human beings, for healing relationships, like when you have when you go through the Lemegeton, in the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Goetia in there has, I want to say, at least half a dozen demons whose descriptions are all about how they repair relationships that have been broken. And not all of them, but the ones that I found that are most effective are almost always dukes or spirits that are related to the realm of Venus. Um, would that right be a new ritual, or just simply calling her intelligence back? Joey, let's touch. Don't let me forget this later. But I'll have to have more context before I can answer that. So yeah, healing relationships and fulfilling desires are the other things that we would use this for. Is like if we really want something that we need to get people's support for to actually materialize, we would go through Venus for that. But these are all like the blunt force Venus rights. Make so and so love me, make so and so not love me, make me favored at work, make me my reputation strong in my career field. Heal my sister's relationship with her husband so that they can be the parents that my niece and nephew need right now. But that's basically what we do with this stuff. It's not a lot of subtle work. The subtle work is always done on the internal side of things. So when you look at the actual Pinnacles of Solomon, this is for the sorceress side of things. This is the material practical side of things. And the first pinnacle of Venus is the one that gives you the control over the spirits, and that's this one with the Nogaliel and all those. They are not in the right order here. I'm sorry. I just sort of, I didn't really realize it until after I'd put them up there, but it is what it is. The second pinnacle of Venus is for obtaining grace and honor. That is the one that has the pinnacle here. This is the one that I was just saying that I think everybody should put into their arsenal or whatever. This pinnacle is one that basically makes everybody kind of think highly of you. It's the first pinnacle I ever made. It was really easy for me to make because I'm a Taurus, and I'm blessed and highly favored from Aphrodite and Venus, and it's super effective, and people like you, and they think really well of you. And honestly, I look better. I'm a better looking person than I used to be when I didn't have that talisman. I'm more attractive physically. I think my ideas about things are more attractive to people. It's something that I think is fundamentally, on a very subtle level, something that is influential all the way around you. I know I just said that everything that we do with Venus is mostly blunt force, but this is one of those subtle things that just sort of gets you favor in a very passive way that works for you around all aspects of your life. And so I can't recommend it enough. It's something you can make on a Friday morning at dawn. You just engrave it on one side of a copper talisman, or you write it in green ink on a piece of paper. It's super easy to do, and you pray for Venus to bless it, and it's just go with it. It's so great. You can use that solar talisman for consecrating all things that we talked about in the sun class from the PGM. If you want to use that, it's a great way to consecrate these talismans. But yeah, definitely use that. The third pinnacle of Venus, if you show it to any person, it serves to attract love. So this is the one that let's see, I think it's this one with the hourglass one. Oh no, that one is, yeah, these are all for inciting love from the one person. So this one here with the square on it and the little rings around it, the one in the upper left hand corner here, I've made that one before for people that really, really wanted it, and they wanted something for coercive magic. I gave it to them. I have someone who swears up and down by it, and I have other people who've I've never seen it work. I mean, the fact is I've never seen it work. I've seen people say that it worked. I've seen people beg for it to work, and I've seen people pay a lot of money for it to work, but I've never seen it work. And I've never sold it. I've never sold it as something to do that would work for sure. And I've never used it in ways to manipulate people that way. Um, I don't know. It's supposed to work. I don't know. The only person I've ever seen fall in love with somebody who they did a ritual like this on, the other person already loved him to start with. So it worked, but it worked by consent anyway. I don't think you get to force anybody magically to consent to anything you want. But other people say that you can, and they make a lot of money saying that. So whatever. I'm not going to argue about it. I don't do that kind of magic myself. And I think it's going to work poorly for people who try to do that. But it is a lot of fun to make that talisman. I don't know why. It's very pleasing to make the square and the cross and the curves, and it's a lot of fun to make that particular talisman. It's just not the most effective one for sure. The one with a star on it is the most useful one. It's the ugliest talisman I ever made. The one I made actually looks as bad as the one that you see on the screen here. It's not even, and you can't make out the Hebrew at all. But it is super effective, and it's very very useful. And I always put the one that has the 4 names of the spirits on the back of it. It's a great way to empower all of these to be more effective in your desires. So what to expect when you start doing the magic. So when you do this magic, you you can expect love and sex and favor and sexiness. You literally are more attractive to other people. People find you more attractive. You get more hits on your resume when you are looking for work, when you do a ritual for favor of the spirits, using the spirits of Venus. If you bless your resume, like I post my resume up on dice.com, and if I do a Venus ritual for it, all of a sudden I will get a ton of responses for the same positions. I get moved to the top of the line. You get more favor, you get more notice, you get a better reputation. I got submitted for an award at work. They gave me a $500 bonus for doing my job. I wasn't even doing my job like particularly well. I just did it like to standards. Like I met expectations, and people were like, "Oh God, he did so great." That's Venus magic. They liked me for no apparent reason. So yeah, when if you've ever had someone fall in love with you, it's there's never a reason for it. You can't explain it. You can't say, "Oh, I did this and that's why they fell in love with me." It doesn't make any sense, right? My wife loves me and I have no idea why. I cannot tell you why. I love that she does. I appreciate it very much, but I wonder about it all the time. I think it must be magic. I think that it must be the God smiling on me. Aphrodite accepted my offerings of candles and smoke, and my honest intention to have a better life. And she rewarded me with a great wife and a great life and a great partner, and that's what I think is how it worked. And so that's what I say is going to happen to everybody, because that's what happened to me. And it happens to me even when it comes to bowling. Like if I would carry my talisman in when I go bowling, I get better treatment than other people. I get to put to the front of the line. You get more better treatment and more favor when you work with these kinds of things in your life, and it's something that you can notice immediately happening in your benefit. Something that you can do this Friday. The lesser benefic is a great way to get some great things going your way right away. Definitely do Venus magic. I recommend it to everybody. It makes everything better right away. Yeah. So the devotional path. I wish I had seen how small this was before I had set it out. Um, oh, okay. Yeah, this is stuff I wanted to cut way down on for the presentation anyway. Uh, Mostly all I want to talk about is like the last 3 bullets here. The devotional path of Venus is what I was saying earlier is the most important part of your magic, in my opinion, and the planetary magic that you're going to do when it comes to initiations and the initiatory aspects of this. Because, and maybe it's because I'm a Taurus, and you can probably tune this out if you're not. Uh, I don't know. Maybe it's. I think it's useful. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother saying it. But love is so important. It's so important to be loved. I have so many issues about being loved that it's not even funny. I want people to love me. I want my mom to love me. I want my dad to love me. I want people to love me who I know will never love me. That I will never be good enough for them, you know. And I have had to accept that some people just aren't going to love me, you know, and I don't understand why it's so important to me. You know, I'm in therapy about a lot of it, right? You know, but love is so important. And for me to be happy in life, it turns out I have to have a partner that I love. Like, I need a partner that I take care of and emotionally, that I provide a safe space for emotionally, that I can help out with the things that they need in life. Like, I need somebody to help take care of. It makes me feel fulfilled as a lover, as a person who is a contributing member of society, as a part of life, as a fulfilled person. I need to contribute to other people's well-being, specifically my partners. You know, it's very important to me that I have a sexual partner. I have a lot of desires and uh interests where that's concerned that I want to continue to express into this existence in life. You know, it's very important that these things be a part of all that, you know. But I had to go through all kinds of purification and cleansings to be able to enjoy those parts of my life, because as long as there was some part of me that was fucked up about that, I would fuck up that part of my life. All right. And I'm not saying this is true of everyone. And I'm not saying that I'm some kind of therapist. I'm not recommending everybody do any of this stuff that I'm saying here. I'm just saying this is what I've done, and it changed me and it made my life better, in my opinion. Okay, this devotional side of things is the power of Venus. Everything else that you can do is just for like finding people and getting them to like you. You know, it's not necessarily the right people. It's not necessarily the person that's going to make you happy. It's not going to be about, I mean, you can get people to like you, big deal. After the novelty wears off, that's not that important to have people like you. Getting them to like you is easy. They just do, you know. And then what? What are you going to do with them? You know, I mean, after you've had your fun, there's not, they are real people, and they want things from you, and they deserve things. They deserve your attention, and they're actually, you're going to have to like hang out and talk about stuff with people. You know, that's part of the deal with other people. When you get what you want out of them, they also have things that they want out of you that you have to do, right? And it turns out that you might not like all of that in real life, you know. So you got to figure out what you are and what you want. And you have to purify that aspect of yourself so that you can actually put out the energies that return to you what you want to receive in your life. You know, if you think of it like the energy boomerang thing, where like, what I put out, I'm going to draw to me. You know, if you think about that way, yeah, you got to clean out the things that you put out this energy through. And if you want to get love to you, you have to put love out cleanly. You know, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is you're not going to notice the good things in life if you're looking at everything through an ugly filter. You know, you got to clean off your lens so that you can see the pure light of good opportunities around you. Otherwise, you're going to think you're going to mistake something and take the wrong thing, take the wrong experience out of life that you didn't want, because you thought you saw something that wasn't there, because you can't see straight. You know, you got to clean off that lens. If you're just an eye, and what eye none knoweth, then your eye is looking for love. You got to clean off what you think about love. You know, this idea of the devotional aspect of Venus is key to everything. And this is another simple process. You conjure Anal and you ask him to heal your heart, heal your love, and to bring you peace and a healthy partner in life. That's all you have to ask for. Ask for clarity about what you want in life. Ask for clarity of your own desires. Ask for purification of your own heart and your own desires. Ask for health and healing. You can be something that simple to get started on things. The downside of this is the trauma. The trauma of all this crap can be very, very dangerous, right? This is a side of things that, like, people warned me not to recommend any of this magic because it can be terrible for people, and I want to give you the warnings. This can be terrible for people. It can be bad. Love can be something that is manipulated from birth by bad parents, by bad situations, by bad actors who got a hold of you when you had no power over yourself, right? You could have gotten screwed up before you had a chance to even get started. Love can be awful to deal with, and when you start purifying and cleansing these parts of yourself, bad things come out, right? Again, I want to reiterate to you that, in my opinion, the bad things come out so that you can get better. You do this work to purify yourself, to transform yourself, to get better, to heal, to get cleansed, to get empowered, to be more efficient, to understand who you are, to be better, to heal. That's why we do the magic, right? That's why we do it. But to do that, we have to stir up the negative shit sometimes. And that shit comes out, and it's painful to deal with, and it can cause a lot of problems. And if it ever caused anybody to harm themselves in any way, I would feel like crap. All right. I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to do any of this stuff without getting the kind of therapy that you need. If you have any impulses for harming yourself or others, obviously stop doing it. This isn't for you. Okay. But, I mean, that said, within the realm of not hurting you or yourself or other people, going through the hard, troubled times of figuring out what you want in life and how to get it in ways that are healthy for yourself and people around you, that's just part of life. And that's normal, healthy work for you. That's spiritual processes, that's healing. And if you get your love straight, you're gonna get everything else around that straight too. And it's so worth it. It's so worth it. It's you gotta work on those things. And what you end up working on are being in love, dealing with what it is about your love life that has been wrong over and over again throughout your life. One of the funniest things, like in the most tragic ways, I have an ex who, when we broke up, through a series of coincidences, she had recreated the exact same instances of the previous relationship that she had broken up from, right down to having just bought a car and a certain amount of money being involved, and like almost to the dime, things across the board ended up changing hands in such a way that it was almost word for word the exact same situation that she had left before we had gotten together, right? So like, she had recreated the exit scene of her previous relationship when we split up, like almost down to the same number of characters on the final signature sheets between the two parties, right? So like, this thing where we recreate the patterns that we haven't dealt with in life is a real thing. And it's something that we can cleanse through our embracing of the change and transformation that comes from the pain and the troubles that we face when we start to do these transformations, these initiations into this sphere. I recommend to people that you go through and do very much a light introductory series of transformational initiations where you just do the conjuration of the intelligence of the sphere, and you say the initiatory Orphic hymn to the planet, and you just sit in the presence of the spirits, and you go home and you just sort of let it cleanse everything a little bit, and you just thank them, and you go about your day. All that's going to do is start to get the energies purified a little bit at a time. It'll cleanse things. It'll make you feel better. it's good and healthy for you. If you know that you have had traumatic experiences previously, you should probably do some Saturn work to stop any pain from that, from causing things to escalate throughout your life and grow and take over your life. You should do some Mars work to control other people from manifesting to recreate situations in your life that were traumatic, right? You need to protect yourself with Mars. You need to end the fate that ties you to those situations with Saturn. You need to bless the fuck out of yourself with the blessings and the resources you need to never fall into those traps again, right? You need to understand that if you've had painful experiences, you're going to be, as you deal with the energies of Venus in your life and purify those things, you're going to have urges to recreate those situations in your life. You're going to find yourself meeting the same characters in your life that you met at that other times in your life that led you astray. You're going to find yourself being like attracted to the wrong kind of people again. You're going to be like, whoa, what the hell? That's how I ended up in that situation. This is like just like when I was 12. Holy crap. And it goes all the way back to that level of bullshit, right? And it's like you get to relive your worst choices, and the things that attracted to you to those situations. You have to deal with those things, and it's not always pleasant, it's not always fun, but you find out things about yourself that prepare you to be a better partner for your real partners. To be a better lover in all the ways that are necessary for you to bring your ideas into creation. You realize that it's not just bringing a partner to orgasm. That's not what being a good lover is all about. Being a good lover is about teasing reality into being with the skilled manipulation of your dexterous activities. If you're a skilled lover, you can make things manifest and materialize and be encapsulated in ways that bring pleasure in a shaking, orgasmically blissful way to everybody who's involved. It doesn't have to be just a quickie, it doesn't have to be a solo experience. You can actually have a great positive experience for everybody if you take the time to be skillful at this stuff, if you take the time to learn how to be good at what you do when you go about creating things. It pays off across the board. It feeds every other sphere. It feeds every other successful magical act. And it makes you have a good time with everything. There's not one part of your life where it's not better when you have the lesser benefic bringing you a little bit of a positive spin for every situation. I can't recommend enough that you just make that stupid talisman, the talisman of which one was it? Dang it, why isn't it going back? It's the one where it just brings you the favor of people. It's like the second, I think it is, the one with the star on it. This one here with the pinnacle on it. It's the second pinnacle of Venus. Just make that. That thing is so much. It releases the powers that you need to make everything better in your life right away in a positive way. Yeah. So this is also the sphere where you have to deal with people who don't love you. There are reasons that people don't love you. There are a lot of reasons that people don't love me, and they're valid reasons. I am not for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I get on a lot of people's nerves. There are things about myself that drive me crazy, right? And it's cool. It's just whatever. I'm doing my best with what I've got to work with, and I try to do better as I progress. That's it's part of life, right? But understanding that people don't love me has been a big deal for me. Not being loved and understanding that that's okay. That's a hard thing for me. And being okay with people not loving you is sort of a big deal. And that feeds back into being okay with being alone and being okay with not loving yourself. So all of those things that I talked about earlier with loving yourself and is it necessary to love yourself? I don't know whether it's necessary or not. But being okay with where you're at with things is necessary. If there's some part of your life that you don't like about yourself, having at the very least the idea that you're going to do something about it eventually is enough, in my opinion, to be okay with how things are going. Right. As long as it's like, I feel like I've either fixed everything that was broken, or I have a plan to fix everything that I know that's broken, or if I don't know that something's broken, I know that I will be able to fix it. So I feel pretty good about life in general. Um, uh, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly where I was trying to go with that. But the whole thing is of dealing with whether or not other people love you, though. Um, Being able to accept that there are just things that you can't control, and being okay with that and moving on with your life. That's all stuff that I also was able to process and integrate as a result of my work in Venus. Uh, it turns out that all that stuff was related to what I desired and why I desired it, and trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to be when I grew up, as it were. Um, yeah, and I think we already talked about whether or not you need to love yourself to love each other, and all of that. I don't think it's really necessary, as it were. So initiations into the sphere of Venus. The seven spheres, like I said, is the best way to perform these initiations in a slow and safe way, with the conjuration of the archangel and the reading of the Orphic hymn. Um, as you start to do that, you will find yourself getting better. You'll find yourself feeling more relaxed and more um, peaceful, I guess, when it comes to other people. If you have trust issues, if you've been betrayed in your love life, you'll find that um, you still have jealous impulses, but not incapacitating ones. You find that you're able to differentiate between your previous disappointments and your current partners in a more clear way, right? So it's just everything that you let the grace of Venus touch begins to heal and gets processed in ways that are more beneficial for how things are going to materialize for you. It marries a little bit of positivity to every experience. It brings a little bit of a blessing to everything that you feel. Not a great big blessing, not like a big Jupiter blessing, but a little bit of a blessing, a little Venus blessing to every aspect that it touches, right? So you'll find yourself more popular at work. You'll find yourself more popular at whatever social events you're involved in. You'll find yourself having more emotional empathy for other people, because one of the reasons that people like you is because you understand them more, right? So this whole emotional thing about existence. Um, so my moon is in Aquarius, and I tend to be disassociative internally, and I'm fine with that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But other people have this whole spectrum of emotions and these feelings that they feel all the time, and they're like on all the time. And like my feelings are like huge, and they're bigger than everybody else's feelings, but they're not like all the time there. They're overwhelming when they're there, but they're just sort of like they come and go as needed, and being empathic with other people is something that requires being really in tune with how you feel about things, and that's not something that I am. I have to really think about how I feel about things to really kind of get the feeling of where I'm at with things emotionally, which actually turns out it's a detriment to your magic. That if you don't know how you feel about things, if you actually are in touch with your feelings and your emotions, and you can bring your emotions up when you need to feel them, you're going to have a lot more effective magic, it turns out. And it took me years and years and years to figure out how to get my feelings not just under control in a way that they don't take over, but under control in a way that I can tap into them and feel them on demand, because I have that disassociative tendency. when it comes to those things. But anyway, you get more emotionally empathic with other people, and you're able to articulate how other people feel in ways that let them connect with you and that make them more attractive to you. And like, I don't know about you, but I'm more attracted to people that I understand and that I can commiserate with than I am with people that I don't have anything in common with. So it makes them more attractive. It makes me more attractive when I can actually emote what people are feeling. So that whole emotional empathy thing, that whole emotional quality of existence is all under the realm of Venus, and it's all varying degrees of love. So like when you think about how life itself is the experience and that exchange of love, and not just love, but the potential for love, and everything building up to that encapsulating of that creative moment. You know, the idea that human beings are this creator godling, right? That we're made in the image of a creator God who speaks things into being, who's like, let there be light, and there was light. You know, that's this creator God, and we're man made in the image of God, right? That's us. We're this creator godling thing, right? And we're only doing that for the sake of love, right? The sake of love, the chance of union. Creativity itself is only done for the sake of union, for interacting with one another, for the chance of that experience of creating something. So like Chris, if Chris creates something musical for us to share, and he brings it to us and we enjoy it together, that creation of that musical thing, that creation of that experience, that shared joy of that thing, that good time that was shared, that's all under Venus, right? Right? It's that creation, that godlike thing that he did where he created it. But it's also that encapsulation of it, that experience of it, and that shared joy that you have as a community, and that emotional fulfillment that we get, not just as the creator God, but also as the experiencing observer that gets to participate in the observation, right? So anyway, it's a whole aspect of fulfillment that you have when you start to understand what all of this can be like, when you actually start to understand where your desires come from, and how the fulfillment of desire is the release of serotonin, right? It's that moment of emotional chemical bliss, of satisfaction and satiety of the moment, of completion, of accomplishment, right? When you've finally done what you need to do and you've done it well. That's what Venus is about. It's all the moments leading up to it, the unknowing and the fear, but also that moment of blissful pleasure followed by fulfilled completion, right? So that's what Venus is able to do, right? It's important that we understand that that's what it's all about. And every emotion that we have as human beings in every situation across this full spectrum of things that I just said that I have a hard time experiencing. That's bullshit, by the way. I totally experience all my feelings, but that experience of those things that I'm so capable of walling off, that is all about Venus. It's 100% about that love, that separation, that whole ability to create something that Chris can do. It's entirely for the sake of sharing that with one another, for that love, for that opportunity that we have as individuated sparks of this all thing, to have this moment where we share this electrical, biological, chemical exchange of experience. We have this opportunity to shock each other mentally back and forth for a second. That's why we are individuated, for that momentary experience of shared joy, of creation, of love, right? Love. Venus is the sphere of everything. It's the glue that holds us all together. It's where everything ends up. It's where it comes from and where it ends up. It's the fecundity of the soil. It's the decayed life that came before and the potential for life to come again. It's the crossroads of the above and the below. So different ways to do devotional magic. Of course, there's the initiations that we talked about. There's plenty of kinds of sex magic. There's all kinds of ways to do sex magic. It basically boils down to doing it really slowly. Do slow magic, slow sex, and you're doing sex magic. And the more you think about it while you're doing it, the more magical it is. And when you get really good at it, all the different methods teach different ways to build your experience of the sexual act into a visualized symbol of your intentional, magical, willed result, right? So whether you think that means like as you're orgasming, imagining the dollar amount that you want to see in your bank account, that could be one way to do it. I don't know if that's the most effective way. It could be taking hours to do a meditation with musical instruments and candles and your partner's interactions with different parts of your bodies that correspond to the chakras to release all the energies in preparation for the physical mingling of their energies and your pools of whatever and blah blah blah, right? It can be as much or as little as you want, but all these different techniques boil down to slowly approaching the moment of release, and in that moment encapsulating it in a visualized symbol, right, that corresponds to what's going on in your material temple, which symbolizes the moment of creation. So that's sex magic, and in a nutshell, and all the variations and symbolisms that you can make around that idea are going to be commensurate with this sphere. The more meditative and contemplative you make your sexual experiences, and the more sexual you make your meditative and contemplative experiences, the more the realm of Venus you're going to be generating in your sphere of experiences. You're going to have it around you. It's going to vibrate around you, and you're going to find yourself experiencing all the wonderful things that come along with living in Venusberg. And what that looks like is good luck, winning scratch off tickets, small fortunes going in your favor, getting really good parking spaces and small bonuses at work, that kind of thing. All the good graces in life start to go your way. So anyway, in meditations, you can imagine yourself going to Venusberg. If you do the research into Tannhauser and actually look at what was going on in the like Crowley has really long conversations about it that you can study if you really want to get into that. But the whole myth of Parsifal, the knight who ends up in the realm of Venus and Aphrodite and is her slave basically for years and finds enlightenment there, and then has to come back to the material world and deal with Christians basically. It's a very interesting story, but it can teach you a lot about what we have to deal with in our processing of the Christian ethos or the Christian viewpoint on sexuality that a lot of us have to deal with is represented a lot by the processes of materialization and transformation that go along with the initiations that you go through when you are passing through the spheres of Venusberg. And you can do all that through meditations. You picture yourself in a fairy ring, and in that fairy ring, you fall asleep and you wake yourself up in the realm of Venusberg, and you call upon the goddess Aphrodite to come to you as your lover to guide you on your way through Venusberg, and you just see what happens. Maybe she'll come and maybe she won't. but that's your meditation, and that's what you follow through with on that. And by the way, these meditations can last for hours. You might find yourself waking up and not knowing exactly what happened, and that's basically, yeah, part of it. So I mean, don't expect it to be easy. There's all kinds of obstacles involved with this, but it's worth it. Definitely keep working on it. Mantras, you can work on your root and sacral chakras to tap into this energy. So if you vibrate Lam for your root chakra and Vam for your sacral chakra, you can work on those things. If you're into the whole new age love and light thing that I've been doing lately, I find it to be really incredibly useful. But you definitely want to open up your root and sacral chakras for this kind of thing. It's very useful for that kind of thing. Candles and offerings of wine to the statuary. Any kind of regular devotions to the gods are very useful. I have a statue of Aphrodite that I offer a candle and a stick of incense to, and a shot glass of wine once a week whenever I'm needing her attentions, or if I want to tap into the powers of Venus in any way. It's a super handy way to do that, but this is definitely the way to do that kind of devotional magic. And it's a great way to just kind of keep that energy alive and moving in your sphere, so things continue to go your way. And when you forget to do it, everybody forgets to do it. It's not like everything goes to hell, but when you remember to go and do it again, you'll be surprised at how quickly things start to go your way again, and how you're like, wow, why would I ever stop doing that? It's just everything gently and smoothly seems to go better. So, personal anecdotes and advice. The only thing I really want to talk about is healing from trauma and healing from ex-lovers. The realms of Venus that I mean, everything else I've already talked about with the getting in the good graces of that one pentacle. Everybody should do that, obviously. But the rest of this, I mean, the bulk of what you can learn from Venus, in my opinion, that is most valuable is getting over heartache and bad choices, right? So like, I was a bastard in bad relationships. Yes, Isis is very much the goddess of Venus, for sure, for sure. Isis, Aset, Inanna. You can definitely go down the path of Inanna for her. She's a wonderful goddess for getting in touch with the purity that is Venus. To me, all of these different goddesses are facets of that true energy. And like I said, being ruled by Venus, I find that the energy itself is pure, and I have a personal relationship with it. But again, that came from a lot of personal work of transformation, clarification, and a lot of healing that I had to do from trauma from my past with my exes, and people that I trusted to do things with my heart that they had no interest in doing, and didn't even realize that that was what they'd signed on to do, because I'd never bothered to tell them, so like, not entirely their fault, for sure, but I had to deal with a lot of problems that I caused for myself when I was going through all this. But it was so worth it, you guys. It was so worth it, because I am in a great relationship now, and I have strong boundaries around it. I have a good understanding of who I am and what I bring to the table, what my problems are and what my benefits are, what my pros and my cons are, and a full sense of what I desire, and what my reason for incarnating is all about. And so when it comes to being in love, I know what I bring to the table because of my initiatory experiences in this sphere, and that's why I recommend that everybody does it. I think it's super useful. But also, getting ahead at work and making sure that everybody loves you, that's incredibly valuable. I can't stress that enough. Obviously do that. So Venus in our experienced world, I want to kind of run through this stuff kind of quickly. In the body itself, Venus covers the kidneys, the testicles, the privates, the womb, the seed, the concupiscible power. Let's see, the fat of the belly, the breast, the navel, and all such parts has served venereal acts. Also the os sacrum, the backbone, and loin. So basically anything sexual was of Venus. Also the left nostril, your love and lust, the sense of smell, and anything that tastes sweet. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about the concupiscible virtue of Venus. So basically, anything that feels good, smells good, or tastes good is of Venus. Anything that helps you sense anything good is basically sort of under Venus, and also anything that makes you want to do things that feel good. So any kind of lust you feel, any itches that you have in your body, that's also Venus. So anything that makes you want to do something, or anything that makes you want to move, anything that inspires you to take action, is reflective of and representative of Venus and that particular spirit. Let's see. The following table shows how the powers of Venus manifest in the physical world. So this is actually part of the document. I'm not going to go through that because we're already like hours into this. I don't want to take up too much of our time this evening. It's already after 6. So anyway, do go over that particular table. I'm trying to pull it up actually, and I can't seem to get my system to. Oh, I know why. There we go. Well, there we go. Nope, it's not going to let me do it because I have Zoom open. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to open up the Word document to go over the table. Do go over the table. It's in our workbook. Basically, this is where the part where we go over the different parts of the material world that are reflected by Venus. Gee, I wish I had put that in here now. I'd be able to talk a little bit more about that. So anyway, do go through the table of correspondences. That is why it's there in the document. A lot of it will show up in the rest of what we have to talk about here. So when we do this conjuration attack, the things that we need are incense, and our statement of intent, as well as the name of God and the symbol of the spirits and the name of the spirits that we're going to be associated with the sphere. For the incense for Venus, what it recommended was ambergris, lignamelas, red roses, red coral, and you mix them with the brains of sparrows and the blood of pigeons. Obviously, we're not going to do all that, but the idea is, again, anything that smells sweet, like lignamelas are very sweet, roses are very sweet, ambergris has a very musky smell, musk has a musky smell. It's all very sweet and scenty. The smell is the sense of Venus. Very when you breathe it into your inner world, it activates your inner experiences. When we call upon Venus, we call upon her as the lady. We call upon her as nourishing, beautiful, white, fair, pleasing, powerful, the fruitful lady of love and beauty. So all of these go through and talk about different aspects of who she is. And when we're actually putting together our statement of intent, we want to grab the things out of this list of ideas that express the parts of her that we want to call into being for our rituals. So like if we're doing things that have to do with like social climbing, we might call upon her as the queen of all delights, the lady of rejoicing, friendly, sociable, pitiful, she who takes things in good part, who's always bountiful to mortals. You talk to her talk about her in those ways when you call upon her, and then ask for one of her spirits to stand with you to work to accomplish your desires as you see fit to ask for them. Epithets of Venus, there are a lot of epithets. I didn't include the table here in this particular aspect. The rabbit is one of the symbols of Venus because rabbits are known for like breeding rather quickly, and that is a venereal trait, obviously. So I had Google try to not Google Midjourney try to come up with a woman in a rabbit outfit, and it refused to do it because it thought that I was asking for something inappropriate for some reason. So yeah, apparently bunnies, sexy bunny outfits are things that people ask for things to do. But rabbits are associated with Venus and sex. So that's why we have a sexy bunny here today. But her different epithets are again a great way to get to know different aspects of her, to call upon her as the god. One of the things I noticed is that they're mostly things like self-born and foam-born, and they talk about where she was born from as the goddess of who came to be out of Kronos's chopping off of Uranus's testicles. The hymn of the sphere, I had a hard time getting this to fit, so we're just gonna have to. I just kind of crammed it all together for the presentation here. I do want to go through this because the Orphic hymn of Aphrodite is completely different than the traditional. So there's like 4 different versions of who Aphrodite is in the mythology. I'm not going to get into all the different aspects of her because it's confusing for one thing, and it doesn't really point to any useful things for us as magicians who are going to be working with her as a planetary power in that regard. Basically, you've got the basic mythos that she was born from her father's testicles. She had different versions of the story have her married to different people. Hephaestus was her husband famously. There's one story that I told in the last class where she got tricked into being married. Hera was tricked into marrying Aphrodite to Hephaestus because Hephaestus made a golden throne that trapped Hera in it, and it was all part of his plot for revenge on Hera for kicking him out of Olympus. And to get out of the golden chair, Hera agreed to marry Aphrodite to Hephaestus. Anyway, after Hephaestus, Aphrodite had a relationship with Ares prior to that. They had 5 kids together. So Hera agrees to marry Aphrodite to Hephaestus. Aphrodite goes and has an affair with Ares. She keeps sleeping with him, even though she's supposed to be married to Hephaestus. But apparently Hephaestus gets a divorce after this. So they split up. And she goes on to be in relationships with other people and have other children by other fathers, and they go on to have other things. But this hymn itself talks about the Orphic mystery traditions of heavenly Orania. This is the version of Aphrodite who was born of Uranus himself, and not it's just a different take on things. It doesn't follow the Hesiod tradition necessarily. Let's see. So lustrous daughter, loving queen, sea-born night loving of an awful mien, crafty from whom necessity first came, producing nightly all connecting dame. So it talks about how necessity and Anke first came from Aphrodite, which doesn't follow the standard cosmology, the emergence of necessity that came out of chaos prior to eros. Eros being the primal aspect of desire. Traditionally in Hesiod, that came prior to the emergence of Gaia and Uranus, and therefore Aphrodite. But in this hymn, you can see that it's saying that Ananke came as a child of Aphrodite, because Eros was the winged god who was depicted as a messenger or a child of Aphrodite in Greek myths. So because Eros was her child, this myth shows Ananke, who is another analog of Eros, being the child of Aphrodite. So that doesn't make sense if you want to follow the timeline of emergence of things, of the other things. So I just wanted to point that out because it is confusing. If you want to get too into the weeds on this, it can be a little confusing. But if you just think of this as a way of referencing the forces of Venus, it's a very effective way to do that. So 'tis thine the world with harmony to join, for all things spring from thee, O power divine. So the harmony, with harmony to join, right? Thine the world with harmony to join. If we go back to the Corpus Hermeticum, it talks about how we are manifesting here below for the sake of union, for the chance of love, right? Love is that aspect of Aphrodite, that aspect of joining together that we're referring to here. 'Tis thine the world with harmony to join, with harmony to join, right? So Harmonia was also the child of Ares and Aphrodite, right? She was actually cursed by Hephaestus because she was the child of Ares. But Harmonia, harmony itself, is the union, is the child of the union of war and lust, right? Love and war. When those two get together and war loses its interest in killing and destroying things, once it's satisfied with sex and it calms the F down, harmony is the offspring of that, and you have harmony, right? So when it says it belongs to Venus to join together things in this world, that's that union of love, things through love, that is part of why we separated in the first place, to become these little images of this creator God, right? It's through our creations that we do this thing where we try to join together in love. So the triple fates, the Moira, are ruled by thy decree. So even here it says that even the fates are ruled by the dictates of love. The productions yield alike to thee. The productions yield alike to thee. So like all the things that come together, the weaving that these fates are doing, the production of existence is also under the direction of love. Whatever the heavens encircling all can train, earth fruit producing in the stormy main, thy sway confesses and obeys thy nod, awful attendant of the brumal god, Bacchus, the brumal god, goddess of marriage, charming to the sight, mother of loves, Aortes, right? So the Aortes are if you ever wanted to put together a system of magic where you needed Aphrodite to represent, so one of the things Aphrodite Urania it represents is this cosmic demiurge, a female demiurge, according to some Orphic traditions. And if you ever wanted like this female demiurge to be this core entity, and they needed somebody to be their servant spirits, you have the Aortes, and the Aortes are the spirits that are her winged deliverers of her loving will to all things. So the mother of loves is one of her names. Whom banquetings delight, let's see, source of persuasion, secret favoring queen, illustrious born, apparent unseen, spousal lupercal. I want to get to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to skip ahead here. Uh, 'Tis thine mortals and necessary bands to join. So she's the one that actually creates the idea of nationality and tribalism within people. So the thing that if you need an idea to gather people together, you would conjure the forces of Venus to help you accomplish that. Let's see. Fashion of gold. Let's see. Foaming billows. Beatus and emphasize. Oh, I can't find it. Oh, here it is. And every tribe of savage monsters, dire in magic chains to bind through mad desire. So this line, where every tribe of savage monsters, dire in magic chains to bind. In life, we have a lot of crap to deal with. And in Greek myth, these crap things to deal with are often depicted as monsters. When it comes to love, love conquers all the monsters in our lives by chaining them, by binding them, right? By binding them in madness, by binding them in these magic chains through mad desire. to overcome their influence in your life. So when you're faced with bad things in life and you go to Venus for help, what she can do is she can make them desire something so much that it drives them mad to the point where they are bound out of your life. They're bound from helping you anymore. So basically, if someone is messing with you, you can pray to Venus to fix it so that they are so obsessed with something that they end up not bothering you anymore because they are completely taken over by these other forces. This power that Venus has over monsters in life to get them to be obsessed with their passions is something that is, for some reason, something that I think is very key for people to understand when it comes to making this happen. To overcoming some of the more dangerous parts of life, understanding that you can obsess people with their own desires seems to be very effective when it comes to dealing with painful situations, as it were. I'll leave it at that. Spirits for ceremonialists. So for ceremonialist magicians, we have the table in the workbook where it actually lists all the names of God and the spirits and the seals and the everything that's associated with that. But this section from Agrippa actually contains all the information that you would need if you are a ceremonialist and you're trying to conjure a spirit of Venus. All of that aspect, all the names that you would need to do that are located here. The seventh name is Tetragrammaton Sabaoth. So that is Yud He Vav He is Tetragrammaton. And that would be Jehovah Sabaoth or Adonai Sabaoth. That is the God of hosts, the Lord of hosts. His numeration is Netzach. So Netzach is the sphere of beauty, which is on the tree of life. It is after the sphere of Tifereth, which is the sphere of the sun, and before the sphere of Hod, which is the sphere of Mercury. It is in the lightning flash, it's immediately after the sun. It goes to Netzach. So it goes from, I think it's beauty. Tifereth is beauty, and then Netzach is, not sure what Netzach is now that I think about it. Anyway, let's see, where were we? Yes. So Netzach is a sphere of Venus. It's also triumph and victory. Victory is a sphere of Netzach. Victory, and then the right column is applied to it. The right column being the column of mercy, which is the column of Jupiter, the greater benefic, and Hokmah, the sphere of the fixed stars. Let's see. It signifies the eternity and justice of a revenging God. It hath its influence through the order of principalities. So the principalities are the choir of angels that you would call upon when you're calling upon these spirits, and whom the Hebrews call the Elohim. So the Elohim, again, this is like the Sabaoth is hosts. Elohim is the plural version of El or Eloha, right? So the Elohim are the plural versions of the Lord Eloha, of God, of the gods. So when you call upon the Elohim, it's the little g gods that help support the big G God, who they don't like pretend are actually sort of like the gods, but they are sort of. So anyway, that's how that all works together, if you want to read it that way. And again, it goes into the sphere of Venus, and it's where you have the zeal and love of righteousness. So any kind of zeal that people have in the spiritual world for a particular idea, zealots and people who are true believers, those are all under the aspects and auspices of Venus. And let's see, love of righteousness, people who actually get a kick out of doing the right thing, they're definitely under the spheres of Venus. And then the rest of it is just other ways that you can use to tap into them, I guess, if you're into that particular aspect. The intelligence of Haniel. I don't know who the angel Serviel is. I've never worked with them. I don't know who the ruler of David, what that has to do with anything. But the rest of that is basically what you would need to do if you were going to put together conjuration using a Key of Solomon type conjuration to ceremonially conjure him. The god name of the spirit, again, is Jehovah Sabaoth. The choir are the principalities. The archangel is Hanael. The terrestrial spirits here are Nogahiel, Akelia, Sokodia, or Sokohia, and Nungariel. And these are the four spirits of that first pinnacle of of Venus that we find in the Key of Solomon. And again, this particular structure of spirits with Jehovah, Tabaoth, principalities, Hanael, and then these four terrestrial spirits, that's just sort of like a shorthand version of a quick way to get what you want to happen in this material world if you're into this particular system of magic, right? And by that I mean using the Hebrew names of God, the 10 names of God that Agrippa brings forth in all of his 3 books of occult philosophy. It's a very complete and comprehensive system for tapping into these powers on the go in a quick way with a complete set of seals and names for all these spirits. You don't have to do a lot of initiatory work. You don't have to do a lot of figuring it out on your own when you work with this system. I don't use it these days because it's kind of it's overly structured, and at this point I just want to work more with the free flow of the energies themselves, the way I've learned to express them in my own language. But this is a different way of working with them that produces a more consistent series of results for people who are more interested in that particular approach. And I don't want to ever undersell this or express like my method of this chaotic approach to embracing the energies and really tapping into them and feeling how they're a part of yourself. That's one way to deal with all this stuff, but it's not the only way by far. And the traditional way of just calling on the name of the god, the spirits, the intelligences, and the forces of those planets to activate those powers in your sphere are very much a great way to tap into those forces, and you can just ask them directly for initiation and for guidance and for help integrating the powers of those spheres. Let's see, the images of the astrological talismans. So for these images, they're just basically like the rest of the talismans. It's variations on ways to express the images of in most cases a woman doing something. Like here's one of a woman having the head of a bird, the feet of an eagle, and holding a dart in her hand. If you recognize that, that's probably Artemis, and the feet of an eagle, her bird is an eagle, and the head of the bird would be probably either an eagle or a like a pelican, for example, or a turtle dove. Is another image for her, but basically you would take something that symbolizes her energies and you would apply it to something that would then receive those energies and reflect them, is the basic theory for how all of this works. But anyway, what I think is most interesting with this kind of thing is what they were used for. So when they say the operations of Venus, what they mean is basically any operation of Venus. So any of the things that we had talked about earlier with the getting someone to love you, or getting the favor of somebody, or getting I guess sort of an understanding of how the social likes are impacting a certain situation. Any of those things would work for this particular image. It's pretty generic. Here's one to get the love of women, and this is let's see, a naked maid with her hair spread abroad, having a looking glass in her hand and a chain tied about her neck. And nigh her, a handsome young man holding her with his left hand by the chain. So here you just see a woman being bound and held by a man, and that's coincidentally what they want the image to accomplish for them. And again, this is a kind of thing, the coercive kind of love magic that I've never seen be effective in any way that made anybody very happy in any way, shape, or form. I can't tell people what to do, but I think anybody who does this kind of magic is stupid. Let's see. Another one, again, this one is to make men pleasant, jocund, and strong, and cheerful, and to give beauty. So all the little pleasures that come with being a handsome man is what this one is for. And this would show a little maid with her hair spread abroad, clothed in long white garments, holding a laurel apple or flowers in her right hand, and in her left a comb. So it doesn't have to be coercive where you actually show someone bound and tied up and all that. You can actually be a decent human being. So that's all I've got today. So let's go over to our questions here. What style of music would suit a composition of that hymn? What what style of music? Um, uh, so anything that has to do with joyfulness and happiness and pleasure of that kind of moment, anything that's sexy and anything that's hot would also be appropriate for Venus. um, for for most of these old hymns like that, uh, they're kind of pompous and they've been translated by pompous people. When you read the ones that like Sarah Mastros has translated, or the one that Patrick Dunn has translated, you get a different vibe entirely. Uh, Ideally, what you're going to do is write your own and come up with something that sounds right for you. I would like to hear something that sounds like Doja Cat, right? Like something that just walks through all of the power of love being applied effectively by a powerful person. I think that would be ideal. So yeah, I think eventually we all have to write our own kind of exhortations of the spirits, and this isn't a modern interpretation of old things. The reason that Agrippa included the things that we call on the spirits by is so that we can write our own statements of intent. And the way that Agrippa presented all this stuff in the 15th century was as examples of how to do it yourself. It was never presented as if it was the only way to do things. So we are expected to, or we used to all be expected to, come up with our own versions of all of this stuff. Don't think that I'm being a chaos magician all the time when I say that we come up with our own language of how to express this stuff. It really is what the intent always was of magic and occultism. So the Jennifer says, can you describe how to consecrate the pinnacles again? Okay, so the easiest way is to look up the consecration of anything by Helios in the Greek magical papyri, and that will have all of the information that you're looking for. Let me just end my show here, and I'll see if I can't just find that for you. Probably be the quickest way. And stop share. And go here. And it was now let me share this with you. Do. So this is the Secrets of Helios from Practical Occult. Alison Tchaikovsky and Corey Childs put this together. And this is a really good presentation of all of the actual Greek from this consecration. So this is the consecration that you use to consecrate anything. And it's basically, it's said in a solar hour on a solar day, and it's really simple. You start here with this address to the sun, and you go all the way down through the end here. And when you're done, you say, one Zeus is Serapis, right? That's the end of this ritual, and that's it. And all you're doing is you're fulfilling through this stone, through this phylactery, the end purpose, right? So this is where you actually rephrase it slightly to say this talisman, for the purpose of whatever the name of the talisman is whatever the purpose of the talisman is. So like the one that's supposed to bring you favor from any man, say the second talisman of Venus with the purpose of bringing me the favor of every human, or whatever it is. You just read the actual description of the thing here for the end purpose. This is it. This is all you have to do. And you just do this on a Sunday in the solar hour after you've made it. So you make the talisman itself on the day and the hour of the planet. You put the, let me go back to my presentation now here. Stop share. All right. So go back to here. All right. So back in this one, we were at the menu. Here it is. All right. So when you put together this pentagram, it's going to be on a Friday at dawn in the first hour of the day. It's always going to be the first hour is the planetary hour of the planetary day every day. Like, so Friday at dawn is always going to be, the first hour is always going to be a Venus hour. So at dawn, you go out and you engrave or draw with green ink this pinnacle that has the 5-pointed star on it on one side, and this pinnacle that has the 4 names of the spirits on the other side. And you do all that in the first hour of the day, and you ask these 4 spirits here to consecrate the talisman so that it does whatever it says in the outside circle here to do, right? Or whatever the purpose is. So this is the second pinnacle of Venus. You would ask these 4 spirits. You'd say Nogahiel, whatever the rest of them are. You say consecrate this spirit so that it obtains for me grace and honor for all things which belong unto Venus, and for accomplishing all my desires herein. That's all you have to say. You ask those 4 spirits to bless and consecrate this talisman to do this description, right? So you do that in the day and hour of the sun. You've already got a talisman that's effective and working for you, but you want to consecrate it because you know that you're supposed to consecrate your talismans more than that. It can't be that easy, right? So let's make it more powerful. So on Sunday in a solar hour, you go back and you do that other ritual I was just showing you. Where is it? Here we go. This one, the consecration for all things, right? You do this one on Sunday. You take the talisman out on the solar hour at dawn, and you start reading here at the beginning, and you do the best you can when you get to all of it, right? And whenever it says NN stone or phylactery to be initiated for NN, this is where you replace NN with the description of the actual talisman that you're making, right? You call upon the great one in heaven, Langkuk, Akaran, Baal Misthren, Martamathoth. I don't know how to say these words. You do the best you can. Nobody knows how to say them right anymore. All right. This is just sort of an idea of how to transliterate them, sort of. That's probably really well informed. This is probably the best educated guess that we have of any of it, but it's an educated guess, and you do the best you can. And the spirits don't care because the energy is formed by the intent that you have when you're saying these words. That's what Agrippa says. It's the intention of the person calling on the spirit that determines the spirit that you get, not the name and the seal alone. Those are good things to use, but it's also the intention of the magician. You're a part of the conjuration, is what he's saying. You're very much a part of it. You help influence every part of it. So anyway, you just read through this from the beginning to the end. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. You say the magic words, you say it at the right time, and you say what you're doing it for. And the world works in ways as if somehow something's listening to you and does what you ask it to do. Right. So that's the way this magic seems to work for me, at least, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. So that's basically that's how you do that consecration from beginning to end. And I hope that's I hope that's the information you need. If there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Looks like we are getting done with only 2.5 hours. And I will see you all next week if you've signed up for it. And if not, I will see you next time I see you. And everybody have a great evening. I will talk to you later.